But it's great to get a few minutes with Vedant, who is an associate at EY-Parthenon. Vedant, thank you so much for your time.
Really appreciate this. No, I'm really happy to be here and share my experience and my journey with everyone.
Perfect. Let's start with a quick introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Vedant Kajaria. I am originally from Calcutta, India. I moved to California 5 years ago for college. I went to UC Berkeley. I majored in business and economics there, and graduated in 2021, and then moved to New York. Ever since I've been here, I've been working at EY-Parthenon as an associate, as you mentioned. Um, at Parthenon, I specifically specialize in the healthcare sector. So that's an area that I find really interesting. I obviously haven't officially decided that that's all I'm going to be doing, but for the most part, I think I'm going to be specializing in that area. But yeah, that's a little quick brief about me.
Got it. So you just graduated in 2021 and you've been out of college for less than a year. Now, just looking back, if you were to kind of start this all over again, we'll kind of go from there, what are the things that you kind of kept in mind when you were approaching your job and kind of going from there. So the first question, when did you start searching for full-time job opportunities while you were in college?
So I think to answer that question, if we take another step back, I think what really matters in terms of recruitment is junior year summer, right? It's you need to decide, do you want to put in the effort for junior year summer, get an internship and convert that to a full-time offer and just get done with all your efforts in one go? Or do you want to try something, see if it works out, and then maybe recruit again full-time? So I think nobody walks into their junior year internship thinking that, this is a place that they wouldn't want to work full-time, right? That's why you work at that place. You want a shot at working there full-time. But I think it really depends on the mindset. What I mean here is if you know you want to work at, say, Goldman Sachs, you know that you want to do investment banking, and that's all that you want to do. You want to probably get that junior year, right? So you don't have to recruit full-time senior year. You're done with that. And so it really depends on your mindset, what you're willing to do. For me, in my case, I interned at a tech consulting firm my junior summer, and I realized that I didn't really enjoy the tech industry. Is why even right now, I don't really work on a lot of tech cases. I primarily do healthcare. So the thing is that you really need to decide when you want to put in the efforts. It's about the timing. Obviously there are people who really want to say, I say someone wants to go to Goldman Sachs, right, their junior summer, and they do that, but they didn't enjoy the experience. Well, that's a different case. Then you need to recruit again full-time. But since you have Goldman Sachs on your resume already, it's probably going to give you a good push. So I think the question is obviously do your best for your junior summer, but keeping that in mind, I think recruitment for me full-time senior year started, I think about in about August, the year before. So August 2020 was when I think I started recruiting in full swing.
Got it. So roughly almost a year before you were about to graduate.
Yeah. In fact, it should have been earlier because I was networking all of summer. So while I was at my internship, I realized that tech consulting wasn't for me. Give it 4 weeks, I realized it wasn't for me. So I started networking. So give it July, and I was already sending out about a couple hundred emails every week for networking. And I think that's where recruitment really began.
Got it. Yeah. So that's a great advice for starting early on, especially if you are an undergrad. You want to make sure that the junior year internship is spot on, and you put efforts to get that internship, because it's likely that, if you perform well, it's going to get converted to a full-time position. So that's a great piece of advice. How did you initially approach your job search? Again, maybe perhaps from an internship standpoint or even from a full-time standpoint. What was your initial approach like?
So I think this is a hard one, right? Because I didn't come into college, or I didn't start recruiting junior or senior knowing that, consulting is it for me, right? I didn't walk in knowing that this is what I'm going to be doing. And I think we need to clear the air about this a little bit. Everybody, great for you if you know what you want to do, right? I can't say I exactly know what I want to do yet. Let's keep it real. I'm 23, right? You can't expect me to know exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. I have my 20s to figure that out. So for me, it was every business school student hears about the ABCs, accounting, banking, consulting. I didn't want to do accounting, that I knew. I wanted to do banking. I recruited for banking, realized that the banking lifestyle wasn't really for me. I think, again, you should know very well what you're stepping into and what your personal boundaries are. I think that is something that everybody should like be very, very mindful of as they walk into their job search. Talk to people in the industry, know what's going on, know what their daily life looks like. It's not just about the money, it's not about the benefits that you get out of the job. It's about what your life's going to look like on a day-to-day basis. And if you're not okay working till late at night and not having much of a social life, yeah, well, like you earn like big bank. You make a lot of money when you're working at like an investment banking firm, right? Like I get that. You get paid to the degree where like you feel like you owe the company all your time. But if you're not someone who's okay with that lifestyle, don't go into banking. Why would you want to make yourself miserable? You'll probably get a good salary at another job as well. Like I'm happily paid at consulting. Like, I mean, I wanted to be in banking, but I realized the lifestyle wasn't for me. So I think a couple personal things to like keep in mind before you choose like what you want to go down. But even then, like, I mean, there are so many other career streams out there. Like I still get recruiting emails from like a lot of different companies. And I'm like, I didn't even know a role like this existed. The thing is, there's no way for you to find out all the potential jobs that are out there. But you start with something that you feel is a reasonable starting point with decent exit opportunities. Like, let's be practical out here. If you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. But be rational and reasonable about it. Like, I entered consulting because I'm like, okay, my firm consults consumer, we consult industrials, we consult healthcare companies, we consult, I don't know, energy, oil, you name it, and we do it, right? So I was like, this is a great starting point. Like, I can try working in any of these industries, see what I like, and then branch out and like do something of my own, or maybe join the industry there, for that matter, right? So I think choose a career that's like a good, reasonable starting point for you. That you obviously like, you find the job interesting enough to want to do it. You don't really hate your life for like doing that job. And I think that's a good starting point. Like a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves, and it's important to get a good job, especially as an international student. Like I know how hard it is. I know the rejections when once you click the box, yeah, like I do need sponsorship, or like, like I am allowed to work in this country, but I do need sponsorship. Like I've gotten rejections because of that too. It's frustrating, but like it's like, I think people can widen the search. Like we cast the net too too narrow. I think we should cast a wider net. If I could go back in time, I would give myself this advice.
Got it. So you definitely spoke about, like on a very high level, you kind of knew that you did not want to go into accounting, and also like banking was not something that you were kind of looking into just because of the amount of commitment that's required in the field. So you narrowed it down to the sector of consulting. And then specifically in consulting, how did you approach searching for roles, or like maybe even narrowing down the companies? And what was like the execution of that approach like?
Right. I think in terms of like, that's interesting. Every school has their own like career portal, right? So I think for me, I was very reliant initially, at least on my career portal. So we used to attend like info sessions. Like, well, I was recruiting during COVID, so it used to be all virtual. It wasn't really that helpful. So I think for me, what I really replaced like sessions with was networking. So I would reach out to people from like all the big companies, right? Like obviously you've heard Bain, BCG, like everybody knows MBB. People have heard of Accenture, people have heard of Parthenon, people have heard of LEK Consulting, people have heard of like all the big companies, right? And since I was interested in healthcare, like I was applying to like all like Trinity Life Sciences, etc., like all the healthcare specific ones. So if you know you have a specific interest in a certain like sector or industry, that's great. You can like apply for like a consulting role in that, like, a boutique firm in that specific industry that specializes there. And you'll find a lot online. You just have to go research. Like you can just go like you can just basically Google search like, the best healthcare consulting firms for like 2020 or 2021. And like, just see, like, obviously rankings aren't everything, but you have to do a little bit of research, right? You go see the kind of like clients they have. They all have like their like, testimonials like from clients, or like just like sample like cases that they've done like on their website. So you go see what you think is interesting. Like they all specialize in different things. You could read up about like the partners of the firm. You see who you want to work with. Like that's a choice you need to make. I think that's a good starting point. So once you make a list, or you can like obviously like reach out to your seniors, right, who've already done this in the past, and be like, hey, what was your recruitment list? Like if you can share, maybe I'll just like check with you and see what's going on, and like corroborate my list with your list, right? Like you can start like that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can start from somebody else's hard work and like build on it. Yes, like build your own, like don't just rely on somebody else's work. Like do your own homework, but like build off of someone else's. That's totally fine.
That's a great piece of advice, actually. Like not starting from scratch, but maybe relying on your seniors and just kind of trying to understand things from their perspective, and then kind of building on that, which is phenomenal. You touched a little bit on this, but looking back now, would you have changed the approach you took for searching for jobs?
I definitely would have told myself to take my junior summer more seriously. Like I didn't know how important that was. So like I think I would take my advice back to like sophomore year and like really tell myself. I mean, it's not something a lot of people know, and like is why like I'm happy to talk about my experience at platforms like these, because if I knew how important networking was, maybe not so much for consulting, but banking, right? Like I wanted a junior summer banking internship and I wanted it bad. Like, but I realized that if you don't network, like you're not gonna get it. Because people are resume dropping like thousands of resumes, like by the day, by the hour, right? Like people want to work at all the big firms, right? Like we're all eyeing for the same like limited number of positions. So if you want to stand out, you need to make yourself recognized, heard. You need to make yourself visible. They need to know who you are. Now I'm at Parthenon. I'm trying to help with Berkeley recruitment, right? So I have a little bit of insight into what the process is, like how it works. And I understand why networking is important, because we want eager people. We want people who want to work at our firm. How do you show that you're eager? When you come talk to us, when you ask us questions, when you express your interest, right? Like, because there are thousands of other people out there who want to work at this firm, but like, if you're lucky enough and you're smart enough and capable enough to like prove that you're actually interesting in other ways, and one of the main ways is networking, setting up coffee chats, talking to people, then why not do that? Like you need to like work hard for yourself and like make sure that you carve your spot, right? I didn't know that. So I was relying on the career portal. I'm submitting my resume, I'm editing my resume on the day. Like I'm working the hardest I can. I'm like prepping for technicals, like I'm reading through everything, like trying to like get the best at whatever I could. And I had interviews and they asked me questions and I answered all the technical questions. So much so that at one of my internship interviews, they said that, hey, it seems like you have enough technical knowledge to answer full-time questions. Can we go ahead and ask you full-time questions? And I went and answered every single full-time interview question that they had as an internship applicant.
Wow.
That's how good I was. But the issue is that I was good, but like, I hadn't met enough people in the team. They didn't know me. And they were like, while you were a great fit, like technically, like we don't know much about you. So like, I don't know if you were a good cultural fit. And I was like, yeah, that's because you don't know if I'm a good cultural fit because I haven't shown you that side of me, right? Like you can't get to know that through a behavioral interview. You have to set up coffee chats. You have to network. And I think that's the main advice I would give me. Start early, start networking. It doesn't hurt to build a base. And even if you don't get those jobs in junior year, you have that network. Use it again when you're applying full-time for senior year. Yeah, a couple people are going to move, couple people that you reach out to the firm are going to like be moving around. They'll go to different places and stuff. But for the most part, like I'd say 70-75% is going to be stagnant, right? People are going to be where they were, and you can leverage that network for your full-time position. Like, and that helps a lot.
Got it. No, that's a phenomenal piece of advice actually, because when you think about, I guess, job search, you always like invest time. You invest time a lot, preparing for your interviews or like building the resume. But you have to spend time on specific companies too. Like, and that's where I guess networking comes in. Like when you network, you are intentionally showing these companies that you are ready to invest time building those relationships, and then that time is actually what's going to help you move forward. So that's a great piece of advice. Like, of course, invest time, but invest time specifically for the companies you're looking for, which is a great piece of advice. It's one thing to apply for these jobs, and it's a completely different thing to actually get an interview from the companies you applied for. Was there anything in particular that you were doing to get the interviews from all the, the companies or the roles that you've applied for?
So obviously having a good resume helps. Like clean your resume, make sure you have, like standard resume advice, like limited white space, like, make it clean, like use a nice font, like, be consistent and clear, like use action verbs, like, what it is, like the basic resume tips that they'll tell you at every session that you go to, like do all of that. Obviously have a good resume, get it checked 1,000 times, like keep editing it till you think it's great, but that's not it. What helped me get like interviews beyond just like, obviously some companies will get an interview just based on your resume, right? Like if you're a qualified applicant, you will get an interview. But sometimes that's what I was saying, the networking, that's the edge. Like you let someone know at the firm, hey, you've been chatting with someone, right? Say Charlie from firm X, right? Like, hey Charlie, like, I got a coffee, like I maybe either got coffee in person with him, or like, we spoke on call, like something like this, like a Zoom call. And I was like, hey, I'm really interested in your firm. Like, this is a little bit about me. Like, I am very interested in learning more about the work you do. So person X tells you all about themselves, like about the role they do. And I was like, okay, I want to be a part of this firm. I want to be part of your team. Tell me what I can do. Build a relation with them. If they're interested, and if like they see that this is something that they like, kind of like a recruitment mentor of sorts. Like, it's not always, I have that in some cases, but not in all cases. It helps to have that, but strive for that. Like, try to get that one connection with this person who will vouch for you. Let them know, hey, I dropped my resume. What they'll do is either they can put in a referral for you, which is like the best case situation. Worst case, they'll at least let staffing know, or like, sorry, not staffing, they let like the recruitment team know, right? Like, hey, this person has applied and I think they are a qualified candidate. They've been in touch with me for a while now.
Yep.
Right? So you have to like get your name into the system, so that you need to get your resume pulled. It may be good, okay? Say like 10,000 people applied today. 10% of that, even if those people are pulled from the resume, that's still so many people. They can't afford to give out that many interviews. From that pile of like qualified candidates, they need to see people who are, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to get pulled from that list of like people, then what you need to do is you need to get your name out there. Like, people at the firm, whether that's, so either you can reach out to the recruiter directly, right? Like, every year they have a recruiter who's in charge of every school. So from your school, you make sure you reach out to your school's recruiter at that firm. And once you have like, someone like that, like, they can be like, oh yeah, this person reached out to me, check their name, give them an interview. Or a current employee at the firm, like preferably someone who's been at the firm for at least 3 to 4 years. Don't reach out to someone like, reach out to me as an associate for like my experience. Talk to me about my day-to-day life. But my referral will not be as helpful as someone who's been at the job for like 4 years. So maybe reach out to the mid-level people. What people mistake, the kind of mistakes people generally make with this, or like the most common mistake I'd say, is like either people reach out to like director level people, which I did too. Like the high up there, like upper management people who obviously don't have a time. Like, rarely ever will they ever give you time for a coffee chat. Maybe if you're an alum, have some common connection, you're a part of like some fraternity that they were a part of, etc., etc. Like, that's very different. But if you don't have any other common ties with them, the chances of getting through to like upper management are lower. So reach out to like consultant level or like mid management level people who have been out of school maybe like 4 years now and have enough experience, but also enough power at the firm to like refer you and like give you like the push that you need.
Phenomenal. Looking back now, would you have done something different to get the interviews from the companies you applied for?
I would say there's just, I mean, I don't know how to do this. Like, I would want to do this again. This is a little idealistic. I would want to do more of this, but I don't know how I would achieve it. Even if I had to go back in time, do a little bit more digging about the company. Okay. I read the websites. Yes. Like, everybody does that, but I want to know more. I want to know more about the firm. I want to show them that I know more about you because I care enough to be a part of your firm. How do I do that? I don't know. If you ask me even today, like, there's no direct answer. Maybe like still find people at the firm who you can like, honestly connect with and be like, hey, can you actually tell me some stuff about the firm in terms of like, things that they do, or like, things that you actually like and value about the firm that isn't displayed on like their website, or like that's not known by every single person out there. Tell me something that's a little bit more unique. I think that would help, because I would bring that up in an interview and be like, I know you guys do this and I admire it. And I've spoken to people at the firm and I think they've really appreciated like XYZ. And I think that is what attracts me to you. And by dropping something like that, they also know that you care enough. You found out, you tried hard, you tried to learn about them. And I think that makes a difference.
Got it. How did you prepare for the interviews that you got?
I think that's a pretty standard process in terms of consulting. At least you need to case. Now, I don't believe, like, unlike a lot of other people, I don't believe in like casing to the point where you're like, it just becomes mundane to you. It becomes like routine to you. Because if you hear a case and there's no excitement to solve a problem, there's no eagerness to treat this like a new case. If you're just like going to rattle off like the frameworks that you've learned in some model, you've gone through them 1,000 times, I don't think the firm's going to take you either way, right? Like you need to be like obviously like extremely good, which is what everybody aspires to be, or you need to like at least put in your own like unique perspective. You need to be you at that interview, right? And I think like most people get lost somewhere in the middle. For me, I cased hard with like a lot of my friends. I think what really helped me in terms of interview prep was reaching out to people at the firms and being like, hey, can you give me 30 minutes? Can you do like a mock case with me? And if they agree, and not a lot of times people have that kind of time to like offer you because people are working. I'm working. Somebody wants to do a mock case with me right now. I'd be like, okay, like I have to see like if I have the time. But like, you know, if you really like reach out to someone and like make your case in an email and like, you know, they want to like help you out, they probably will, right? Your rate may be like for every 100 emails you send out, maybe 5 of them will be ready to do like a mock interview with you, but those 5 will also help because they've gone through the process, right? You can case with your peers, but like everybody is still recruiting. It's different to like case with someone who's gotten the job, right? Like they did something right to get there probably, so like maybe like we should listen to them, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So that helped me a lot. And I think obviously not going too hard on the frameworks. Learn, read, pay attention, not denying. Yes, like, but I would never memorize the frameworks. I would still always try to bring some amount of like unique perspective to every single framework and structure I ever built at the start of every case.
Got it. Looking back now, would you have done something different to prepare for the interviews that you got?
Something different. I actually
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
you certainly mentioned, you know, like instead of reaching out to your colleagues, you know, as a student, like instead of reaching out to students for a mock case, you would actually want to reach out to those who have actually been at the company.
So I actually cased more with people who are not my peers. That's the thing, right? Like I don't think I could change that anymore. Maybe I could have cased a little bit more with my peers. Like I could have like, it's always good to be on the other side, you know, like in the sense when you're casing your peers, like you can not just, you don't have to be the interviewee, you can be the interviewer. And I think that's also a great perspective because like when you're hearing someone else give a response, you identify what works and what doesn't work. And you can implement that not just like in your own strategy, but you can also help your friend be like, hey, this is the advice I need to give you to improve. But you also notice the things that are like, you know, wrong or right or good or bad in terms of like a response or a strategy. So I think that, yeah, maybe I could have like been like played the interviewer a little bit more. I think that would have helped like in terms of identifying like, you know, what works better. Yeah.
Got it. Let's pivot towards some company specific questions.
Okay.
How did you come across your specific role of the associate at your company, EY-Parthenon?
I think for that, I have to thank like my company, the college portal where they have all the company listings. As I said, like, you know, I was still pretty reliant on that. I was networking and like, I think that helped somewhere down the line. But like, I think most companies, at least at Berkeley, the way they wanted to work was like, hey, at least do a resume drop through the college portal. You can apply outside like a separate application, yes, but at least do a resume drop through like, I mean, what we use was Handshake. I don't know if everybody else uses the same, but like that was our career page, career portal. So you have to do a resume drop through that. That's like the starting point, and that's how I got my job because like everything followed after that. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, even if you're like apply through the college portal, but also always apply through the company website. Like they all companies have like, you know, like a application link and like an application online. Like go ahead and drop that even if you use your like college portal, because sometimes like things happen, like, you know, it's always better to have like 2 applications go in than like, because I've had situations where my application didn't go through my college portal and I was just like, oh wow, like I didn't know I didn't even apply for this role because I wasn't like, I was fully thinking that I, you know, would like at least have a shot at it, and my application didn't even go through. So
wow, got it. How did you get the interview for this specific role?
I think they check my resume. Obviously I network with people, but like they check my resume, and like I got like a first round interview from that.
Got it. So you did network with maybe the recruiters or like folks at this particular company.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, I networked with them for my junior summer internship. I didn't really network a lot with people at Parthenon for my full-time offer. I think I have to give more credit to like my resume, my actual resume, than like my networking for like this role.
Got it. And what was the interview process like for this specific role?
So again, like this is disclaimer. This is like this recruitment process, like about 2 years old. It may not be the same. It may not apply to like the people applying right now. But the way this worked was you had like, a resume pull. Like first, like, you get like, you drop your resume in. Like if you get pulled, then you get a first round interview. First round interview, if I remember correctly, was 2 30-minute interviews with like part behavioral, part case. Like you'd spend maybe like the first 5 to 10 minutes talking about like behavioral stuff, like like any number of questions, like, hey, walk me through your resume, tell me a little bit about yourself, like a situation where you led a team, you made a mistake, how do you learn from it, any of those, like standard like behavioral questions. And then they dive right into a case, and like it's a quick case, could be mainly a market size or just like like a basic framework with like some math and like quantitative like responses, but nothing very complicated. So it was like two interviews with two different people. And then I think you hear back like within a week. So for me, the thing was that I had a couple other offers, so I had to accelerate my Parthenon timeline. So what, like in the sense, like they didn't give me like they still had super days on the same day for everyone. They didn't give me a super day earlier, but I got my like offer by the end of the super day, like within like 4 hours after my interview was over, because that was the deal, right? Like because I had to give a response to the other companies like by a certain time. But anyway, so I had like my first round, like, and I heard back like soon after that saying like, hey, we want to offer you like a final round interview. And then the final round interview was primarily like a group interview.
Okay.
Which no other firm does, honestly. Parthenon is one of the few firms that does a group interview. Back then it was online, so it was very different. It was like I think 5-6 of us from like a bunch of different schools, like a couple of people from Colgate University, people from UCLA, UC Berkeley, like you name them. It was like a mixed cohort, right? Like we were all in there. There was one person from the Parthenon team who was like shut camera, like not talking, muted, like sitting there, just like taking notes on like our team dynamic. We got the case one day before. So we all got the materials for the case one day before. You prep for it. Like you don't really know what is going to be asked off of you, but you just get like the background of the case. And then on call that day, like, you're thrown into a room with all these people and you're like, hey, these are the questions, work it out. So like you have to obviously establish a team dynamic, come up with a solution together. Like, and what they note is like, obviously your ability to work as a team. They want to see that you're like, obviously taking lead and ownership of work, but not like becoming the alpha and like not letting other people talk, like that kind of things, right? Like they want to see you as someone who is entrepreneurial enough to like take lead or like take a stand, but not like a team player enough to like just involve everyone. You have to be inclusive. I think that's one thing Parthenon. So we have a motto. We like 3 qualities in people: smart, driven, and nice. And they really value themselves in the nice part, and that's what they check for in a group interview. So we had a group interview. It's like about like 45 minutes like of prep time and stuff, or an hour. And then after that, there's like a board that you have to like present to, which is like basically like a couple of recruiters, people at the firm, whatever. And then you present your solution to them. They ask you questions, like sort of a panel. And yeah, then you basically get your offer or you don't hear back.
Got it. And you got your offer right up, like around 4 to 5 hours after the last interview.
That was just in my case. People got it like a week or maybe like 10 days even after the interview, because like, that was like the regular rollout of offers.
Yes.
But for me, since I had like a deadline, they like made an exception for me.
Got it. Any last piece of advice for any international student who might be listening to this and is also seeking a full-time opportunity in the US?
Honestly, it's hard for us. Like, I know it's not easy. Like, like if there's someone out here who doesn't need that like sponsorship or like, doesn't have to check that box or doesn't have to say that international, it's easier. Like the bar can be slightly lower for them. And I hate that. And I hate that for all of us together as an international student. That is a pain point. And unfortunately enough, like there's not much we can do about it. But what we can do about it is, I feel, make sure that obviously like you're on top of like your things at college, right? Like involve yourself in extracurriculars, take leadership positions, like have fun at college, but like know what you're heading towards, right? Like make a plan, head towards something, get a couple things down on your resume, right? Like you need to make sure you have internships lined up, like even like freshman summer and like sophomore summer, like do something. Like it doesn't have to be an internship, but do something with your summer, something you can talk about in interviews. It's important to have Like, it's important to show that you're a well-rounded person. You have experiences and experiences that are valuable to the firm, right? You need to seem as a person interesting enough to like be wanted at a firm. So it's not just about your like professional qualifications. It's also about what kind of person you are. So just do something with your time, valuable with your time. Like, and remember, like, yeah, we need to be better than the rest. We have to work harder because it's just how it is. Right? Even people who work hard don't get H1Bs. People are always going back to India, like people going back across the globe, right? Not getting to stay in a country that they worked so hard to be in. Like, I get it, and it's not easy. But my only advice would be like, if you know that like you really want to be here, you want a job here, you gotta work hard. Like, you gotta put in the extra effort. Like, you can't just like expect it to roll into your lap, because it's not gonna happen, right? Like, you need to hear this. Like, I heard this at my time. Like, it's annoying when you get those like rejections in like by the day, but like you got to keep going. Also, it's a numbers game. Like, I think not enough people told me this. It's just the more you apply, yeah, obviously if you're qualified, like you'll get interviews from places, but it's also really a numbers game. Even the best people get rejected from all places, right? Like from quite a few places. So just keep applying, don't stop. Like, you have to, like, it's a couple months of hard work, but you put it in and then you're good, you're golden. So I feel like that is all I can say. Like, you just have to pull through it. Yeah,
that's phenomenal, especially the point that you made about focusing on internships as well, and not just thinking about the full time. Because if you focus on internship, it's like a rolling kind of a thing. Like, you get a good internship, and then that kind of steps you up for the next opportunity, and then you can sell your previous experience for the next role, and then kind of builds from there. So the sooner you get like a good experience in your 4 years as an intern, the better, because it's going to set you up for success. And then by the time you graduate, you have like a plethora of experience, and then you can really sell that to get the opportunity that you want, which is a great piece of advice. I know a lot of people just focus on, the full-time role and maybe not focusing that much on the internships, but internships are like the stepping stone towards reaching that full-time role. So that's a great piece of advice. Vedant, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the insights that you have shared with us, especially your journey, how you kind of went through about the job search, and like specifically about your consulting experience as well. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it.